Thank everyone for joining our webinar today. Engagement is a buzzword in HR, and we're often asked by our clients how they can boost their engagement levels within their organization. We're fortunate to have workforce researcher Eric Chester with us today to present a webinar that addresses this hot topic. For more than 2 decades, Eric has been helping companies win the war on talent by creating a dynamic and compelling workplace culture. He's published 4 best-selling books, with a 5th coming out. In his book, On Fire at Work, How Great Companies Ignite the Passion in Their People Without Burning Them Out, Eric presents the key drivers of employee engagement in today's webinar. Eric will share some of his content. Without further ado, Eric, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Pete. It's such an honor to be with you today. You know, I'm a big fan of Balance Point, as I've seen what you're capable of doing with the people strategies that you offer your clients, the ability to help them find, develop, and keep great people, and the technology that you make available has been pretty eye-opening for me. So it's a real honor to be a guest on your webinar today. I'd like everybody who's listening to go through an imaginary scenario with me. Imagine that we all wind up, or that you and I wind up on the same plane together. No, I don't know you, you don't know me, we've never seen each other, we didn't ask to sit next to each other, the airline just randomly assigned us 2 seats on the same plane together. You're sitting there, I'm sitting there, and we're both just completely enveloped in our technology. I might be on my laptop or tablet, you might be on your smartphone. Even though we're sitting right next to each other, we're probably not going to talk, right? Unless what happened to me last week happens to us, where we back away from the gate, we hear the engines wind down on that plane, and then the pilot comes over the loudspeaker. Attention, ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We appear to be having some mechanical issues, mostly tied to our navigation system. So we're going to ask you to please, if you would, just turn off your electronics. We'll let you know when it's safe to turn them back on. So we're sitting there on the tarmac. We're a little frustrated, and we begin a conversation. First of all, expressing our frustration. Oh, geez, I hope we don't misconnect. I hope we're going to be, this isn't going to take long. But before long, if the conversation seems to be going well, you're going to ask me a question, or I'm going to ask you a question. It's always the first question that comes up in dialogue. That question, what do you do? You see, we're not human beings, we're human doings. We're going to ask each other what we do. And so I ask you, and you tell me about the nature of your business. You're a leader or a manager, etc. And I say, well, that's cool. Are there any issues? And you go, well, yeah. I mean, we can get customers, clients, patients, whatever business you're in. But boy, we're having a tough time finding and keeping great people in our business. And all of a sudden, you see the corners of my mouth turn up. I start smiling, beaming. And you go, why? What do you do? And I say, well, I happen to be the CEO of the People Store. I have millions of people. I can hook you up. I can send you an unlimited supply of people, but I guess what I really need to know is, what kind of people are you looking for? And right as soon as I ask you that, the captain comes back over the PA and says, attention, ladies and gentlemen, this is your pilot, and good news. We appear to have solved our mechanical issues here. We're going to invite you in 30 seconds to turn back on your electronics. You only have 30 seconds. You know, only 30 seconds to answer a very simple question, and that is, what kind of people are you looking for in your organization? Now imagine you, with 30 seconds, you can only give me 5 words. So what 5 words would you give me? What adjectives would you give me to describe the people who you really want in your organization? So take just a minute and think about what those 5 words are. What five words would you use to describe the people who succeed in your organization? Okay, so think about it. Here we go. 5 words. Probably didn't take you too much time to write those things down. I'm not going to ask you specifically what 5 words, but I will ask you to classify them. Let's put the words you just wrote down into one of 2 buckets. You see, I believe those are either skills, things that you train are in your employee operations manual, or they happen to be core values. In other words, you're not going to hire an individual who you don't believe at some level already possesses that core value. So next to each of those words, simply put a little blank beside each one, and put S if you believe the word you wrote down is a trainable skill, or put a CV if you happen to believe that's somebody's core value. Now, without taking too much time, I bet you if you looked at that, you'd realize that the overwhelming, if not all, of the words you just wrote down would happen to be core values. See, we're frequently being told that we have a skills gap in America. The reality is, most of us could probably teach somebody the skills they needed to succeed in our business, but boy, we need core values. We're looking for people who really, well, they have what it is that we're looking for. Now I'm going to guess the words that you wrote down, or at least synonyms of the words you wrote down, because I've done this little experiment with over 3,000 business leaders, owners, and managers. I asked the guy at the end of my street, he owns a pizzeria. I interviewed the CEO of Harley Davidson. I've asked thousands, tell me, what are the 5 words that describe what you're really looking for? And believe it or not, regardless of industry, and I've talked to people in hotel and hospitality and restaurant and technology and construction, manufacturing and transportation, communications, healthcare, regardless of what industry they're in, the words are always the same. I'm going to guess. I bet you said, maybe you're looking for people who are upbeat, happy, cheerful, have a can-do, positive attitude. If you got that, you might go ahead and put that down on your page. Yeah, I think I got one. Yeah, we're looking for positive people around here. We're tired of hiring people that brighten our workspace when they punch out or go home. It's not just positive people. We're also looking for people who are dependable, reliable. They're going to show up when we need them. They're going to be there. They're going to be there on time, and they're going to put in a full day's work for a full day's pay. Doggone it, we need people who are reliable. But we also are looking for professionals. Now, when I say professionals, I'm not talking doctors, lawyers, and architects. I'm talking about people who know how to separate their personal from their professional time. And when they're on the clock, when they're being paid, they're going to represent you, not themselves, even though everybody has a personal image. We don't want people to come to work wearing fuzzy bedroom slippers and a big T-shirt that says my inner child is a nasty bastard. We want people who are going to look the part, dress the part, and act the part. They're going to use language that represents us in the best possible way. Yes, we're looking for professionals, but that's not all. We also want people who are going to go above and beyond, who take the initiative to learn more, to be able to do more. We want people who are going to use elbow grease and try to figure it out. And the only way they're ever going to add value to our organizations is if they learn, if they take initiative, and then they can grow enough so that they can, have growth opportunities in our organization. So definitely we want people who are going to take initiative. But, we also want people who are going to respect our rules and our culture. You see, there's a certain way we do things around here, and we want people to come in and do things our way, not the way that maybe they did at their last organization or the way they think is best. We want people to respect our rules, our culture. They don't have to like the rule. They don't have to like the person who gave them the rule or the policy. Just respect it. And yes, we probably wrote down, we want people who have the highest integrity. You see, business moves at the speed of trust, as Stephen Covey Jr. reminds us, and we need to have people we can trust. I mean, wouldn't you rather have somebody call in well? Think about it. Call in well as opposed to call in sick if they're not sick? Because if they do that, then all of a sudden we begin to doubt them. We begin to, question everything they tell us. We have to look over their expense reports, and it just slows us down. We want people of the highest integrity, people we can trust. And last but not least, we want people who want to work with us. When I say they want to work with us, they're not just taking this job because it's the only one they could get. They have gratitude in their heart. They're saying, this is the place I want to be, and I'm going to show that. I'm going to show that to my coworkers, to my manager, and certainly any customers I interface with. You see, positivity is feeling good on the inside. Gratitude is your determination to show it on the outside. Regardless how you feel on the inside, it is the cornerstone of customer service. So let's count them up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Wait a minute. I said, hey, give me 5 words. And all of a sudden we have 7. So let's just say you hand me this list and you say, here are the 7 things I'm looking for. And I say, wait a second, I told you I'd send you an unlimited supply of people who hit 5 of those targets. You gave me 7. Tell you what, I'm going to give you one. I'll send you people who test off the charts with 6 in 6 of these areas. They're really deficient in the 7th. Which one would you cross off your list? Odds are you're looking going, I can't negotiate on anything. Those are non-negotiables. I want positive people who show up for work on time, dress like pros. They go above and beyond. They'll respect my rules and my culture. I'll be able to trust them, and they want to give great service. Yeah, we want people who are going to. But here's the thing. We know what we want out of those people. I mean, you know what you want from them, the people you hire. So we're going to focus our time with a slightly different question today. The question is, the people that you really want, if you know what you want from them, what is it that they want from you? Stop for a moment and ask yourself that question. What do they, the people you really want to hire, what is it that they want from you? Well, I'm no mind reader, but I bet you the first thing that comes to mind is, well, we're going to have to pay them well. And certainly compensation is something that every employee wants. If you don't believe that, then stop paying your people and find out how long they would stay with you. Odds are it's not long. So compensation is certainly something that we think about. It may not be on the number 1 item on everyone's list, but it certainly is an item that is on everyone's list. So stop for a second and let's think about compensation. In fact, if you look it up in the dictionary, you'd find that compensation comes from the 17th century Latin word compensat. And compensat simply means to counterbalance one thing against another. So think about where that counterbalance is, because employers usually say, well, I have the money. And the employee says, well, then I'll give you my time and my talents. So there we have it. You have the money. They, the employee, they're going to give you their time. So somewhere a long time ago, someone probably thought the best way to pay people was for their time units. Maybe that would just be, how much do I pay them per hour, per week, per month, or per year? The problem with that is it often becomes a train wreck. It becomes a train wreck because what you want, right? What you want is the most that they can give you for that time they spend. And what they want is the most money that they can get for their time. So it generally works against each other. The only way your employee can really get a raise is to do less during that amount of time that you're giving them. And the only way you can get the most out of your employee is to drive them as much as you can during that hour. So what your initiative is to get the most out of them, and what they're trying to say is, wait, the only way I can affect my salary is to do less during that hour, because then at least I feel like I'm being paid fairly. It is a weird thing when you stop and think about it. Our motives are different. But imagine you and your employees got on the same wavelength. So a victory for you was a victory for them, right? The more that you did, the more they got, etc. So I'll give you a couple of examples of organizations that I've studied that have kind of changed their metrics. Now, imagine that you go take your car in for an oil change. Maybe you get a coupon in the mail, and it's for a discount. So you bring it into the oil and lube place, and you feel like you're going to get a $29 or $39, whatever the oil change would cost or whatever it's advertised. But by the time you go to pay, you find out it's more. That's because somebody there tried to upsell you, to tell you that you needed an air filter, or perhaps maybe you needed, some other additional lubricants, etc. That's the way most operations work, but not Express Oil and Lube, headquartered in Birmingham, Alabama. They've changed their metrics. You see, everybody that works for them, they do get an hourly wage, but that's not all. They also get a performance bonus. And it's really not even a performance bonus. There is a metric called car count. And every week, if they can improve the car count over a metric that they establish, if they can get that car count, everybody gets a bonus. So imagine the scenario. You go in for, say, a set of tires, and you say, look, I need 4 new tires. And instead of trying to sell you 4 or even 4 more expensive tires, the mechanic would say, the tech might say, well, wait a second, the 2 ones in the rear, they look pretty good. You might have 10,000 miles left on those. Yes, we'll replace the ones in the front. We'll rotate them to the back. So really all you need are 2 tires. Now all of a sudden you go, wow, that's a great deal. So you leave and you feel good because instead of being charged more, you actually are paying less. And so what do? You tell your friends, your family, your neighbors, you're excited, you come back as a customer, and you send other people back, and car count goes up. So guess what happens? Because car count goes up, Express Oil and oil change and tire engineers, their business goes up. They win. And the tech, the car count goes up, so they get a bigger share of a bonus pool, and you win. Right? Everybody wins. So that's the kind of metrics I'm talking about. I also had an opportunity to get to know a woman who has a cleaning business down in Midland, Texas. And that's a boom or bust economy. It's all based upon oil. And right now it's booming. She was having a difficult time finding house cleaners for her business. And as you probably are aware, it's not everyone's dream to clean houses. But she had an idea. She would pay her people the minimum wage. I think at the time it was like $8 an hour. She'd pay $8 an hour to all her cleaners. But she said, now wait a second. If you're here every single day of the week on time and you work a full day, I'll bump that to $9 for that particular week. So she basically said, here's an extra $1 an hour retroactive back to the first day of the week if you're here every single day. I don't have to worry. Oh, by the way, if you wear your uniform, it's neat and tidy and tucked in, that now goes up to $10 an hour. There's an additional $1 an hour. And by the way, if there's no complaints, in other words, nobody said, hey, you missed, cleaning the shower, or, there's no trash left behind. Guess what? There's an additional $1 an hour. So now employees are eligible to make up to $11 an hour. But wait a second. If you send additional business or revenue her way because somebody likes the job you did well enough, they refer, she's going to give you an extra $1 an hour, again, retroactive back. So now all of a sudden we're at $12 an hour. It continued all the way to what she called a drama-free dollar, because if she didn't have to worry that there was some backstabbing or that employees weren't getting along, she gave an additional $1 an hour. So people were motivated based upon their performance on the job. Look, I'm not telling you have to change your entire compensation plan, but look at it. If it's just strict wage per hour form of employee compensation, no matter what you're paying per hour, it'll never be enough. You've got to find a way to adjust the metrics so that a victory for you is a victory for them. So we're asking the question, or answering the question, what do they want from you? And certainly compensation is one aspect. Another aspect might be, well, it might be the way you're aligned. Now, I love to use an example of USAA, which is a major insurance company. Of course, you see them advertised frequently. It's headquartered in San Antonio, Texas. This is a company that is frequently being recognized as one of Fortune's top 100 best employers. And coincidentally, they're also receiving awards continually for being outstanding customer service organization. So when you think about that, not only a great place to work, but their customers rate them very highly for the service they give. Why? Well, it's because of the way they align themselves with their workforce. They serve military and ex-military, so they hire military and ex-military. That's their employment base. They like to hire people who have a relative or have served in the armed forces, because those individuals know what it's like to be on the front lines, or at least know what it's like to be in service. And for anyone that doesn't, and even those that have, they want them to know what the people that they serve are going through. So MREs are called meals ready to eat. And anybody that's ever been deployed knows you better be ready to eat some food that's not the most tasty food in the world. These meals ready to eat. So if you're, out on a mission somewhere and there's not a mess hall, boy, they just give you a lot of freeze-dried foods. And so guess what? If you work at USAA, you're going to spend a couple of days eating MREs. You're going to know how those people feel. You're going to go through some experiments or experiences much like the people on the front line, including wearing a Kevlar suit, understanding what the weight of a backpack is, etc. Why? Because they want their people to be aligned with the individuals that they serve, but they also want to be in alignment with the company that they are, who they are, and what they represent. The closer that you can align your people to your cause, to your mission, the easier it's going to be for you to find and keep great people. Let's go to an opposite end of the spectrum. I'm from Denver, Colorado, and there's a growing restaurant franchise out here that's called Mod Market. Actually, now it's changed its name to Modern Market, but I was in there and I saw their signs that they had posted looking for help. Ordinarily, restaurants just say, you know, help wanted, now looking for help. This one said now hiring, but if you look at it, it says preparing amazing food from scratch is hard. So we're looking for people who relish that challenge and want to help us change the way Americans eat. Notice that they're not just saying, hey, if you're looking for a job, come here. They're looking for people who want to change the way Americans eat. Very big alignment factor here. We're not just hiring anybody. If you really are on a mission, you're looking out there saying Americans are eating bad food. They're getting, you know, they're not eating healthy food, et cetera, et cetera. You may decide that's a place I want to work. Now, conversely, let's look at ice cream and a brand we all like, Ben & Jerry's. Do you know if you want to work at Ben & Jerry's, they don't even have an application? And instead, they say bring in your own creative application. See, Ben & Jerry, two, quote, hippies, all right, they founded an ice cream company where making a profit was actually incidental. They're out to change the world. They have very progressive views, and they like having people come into their restaurants or into their ice cream stores to have conversations about how the world should change. They really believe that. And so they're on a mission to change the way Americans think and believe, at least politically, how they handle their lives. So their application basically says, look, you bring in your own application. Just take a sheet of paper, write down your name and your contact information. Give us any past work experience, if you even have any. They're not saying tell us exactly when and where. Tell us when you're available to work. You know, what days could you work? And then here's one. Give us 5 reasons you want to work here, right? Just give us 5 reasons why we would want to hire you. So you bring in your own application. Again, drastically different than USAA because they're aligned to their goals. So something that people that work for you, they want to know that what you stand for as a company is something that they can get behind, that there's this shared synergy. They like who you are as a company and organization and everything, but they want to know that, hey, what I feel for myself and what I want to subscribe to are those same things. So it's being kind of a values-driven company. Let's think what else people who might want to work for you would want from you. They probably say, you know, I want to work for a company where I can have a little bit of fun. I want you to imagine that, take a look at your atmosphere, the company atmosphere. If you think about it right now with this present labor shortage, probably the worst we've had in 50 years, there's a lot of planets out there. Imagine that your company is a planet. It looks a lot like Saturn. And there's a lot of Saturns out there. And what you're trying to do is attract these astronauts, these people, to land on your planet. Well, there's 7 rings, which equate to 7 questions that everybody who could potentially work for you is going to ask themselves. Let's go through what those questions are. And they're not always in this order, but they might go, hey, am I going to be safe working for that company? Do they go out of their way to make sure that I'm going to be safe? I'm going to have whatever equipment or whatever gear or whatever I need to keep me safe on the job. Are they going to accept me for who and what I am? My views, my quirks, what have you? Will I find people that are like me there? Will they accept me? Are they going to give me the tools that I need to do a job, right? Are they going to give me, you know, the right kind of technology, the right kind of tools so that I can accomplish whatever objectives they set forth for me? Am I going to like or at least respect my boss? From day one, is there a conflict where this person that I'm reporting to didn't have any say in my hire and I don't like them and they don't like me and there's going to be a rub? Or is there going to at least be some common ground there? And what about my coworkers? Will I like the people that I'm working with? Will we have anything in common? Will I look forward to going to work? Which also boils down to the sensory ring, the sights, the sounds, the taste, the smell, the touch. When I come into the workplace, do I feel like this is a place I really want to be? Is the atmosphere one that, is pleasing to me? Am I cold or hot? Am I sitting at a comfortable desk? Is there some obnoxious smell going on? Are they protecting me from anything like that? Do I like what's going on with my senses? And last but not least, we're going to have any fun around here? I mean, do we do more than just maybe an annual holiday party? Do we maybe have a fantasy football league, or every once in a while we go out bowling as a team, or maybe there's donuts on Friday morning, or the company kind of goes out of their way to make sure that there's some connections outside of the workplace so that people tend to get to know each other at a level that makes them want to come and be there. So far we can look at three things: compensation, the alignment you have, and atmosphere. But I don't think that's it, because everyone that's on this webinar wants to grow your business. And when you think about it, the people that work for you, they want to grow as well. So think about Wegmans. Wegmans, if anyone's not familiar, is a company and organization that just defies description. They've not only been in the Fortune Top 100 workplaces over the past several years. In fact, they've been on the list every single year that since the list was created, and they've won America's Best Workplace twice. I think it boils down to Danny Wegman. He has a very simple philosophy. Everybody that comes to work here, we look at as a career employee. Even that snot-nosed 15-year-old, they're not looking at him as, hey, we just got somebody who's going to go get the carts out in the parking lot. They go, that could be our next CEO. Because everybody that works there is looking at the next opportunity. So when you go to work at Wegmans, one of these incredible stores, the first thing that's going to happen when you go there is they're going to say, what would you like to do next? Well, you might turn around and go, well, I'm collecting carts. You know what I'd really like to be is a sacker. Okay, great. Here are the bubbles, the skills that you need to acquire to be a sacker. And then they're going to assign somebody to teach you those things, somebody that is a sacker, right? So now you're going to be mentored by somebody who is a sacker, a caddy, or whatever. So you learn those, and once you have those skills, when that position opens up, you're promoted into it, and the first question they ask is, what's next? Well, I'd like to be a cashier. Great, here's 14 bubbles that you need to master in order to be a cashier. And they assign somebody, you begin learning those things as you're a sacker. When a position opens up, bam, now all of a sudden you're a cashier, and they ask you, what would you like to do next? So people are always growing, and that's what makes Wegmans such an outstanding organization, is they're determined to grow their people. Here's my question. Do you know what every person who works for you, what they have in mind as their next step? Is there a learning agenda? Do you sit back and say, are we growing our people every day so they go home and say, man, I like being there, I'm learning? Because there's an old axiom that says you're green and growing or you're ripe and rotten. And once people say, hey, I've learned everything I need to know, they become bored and they start checking out. You want to ignite passion in your people? You want to make sure they don't burn out? Make sure you have a learning agenda like they do at Wegmans. Okay, so now we have 4 basic things they want from us. They want compensation, and they want to be in alignment, and certainly they want to have some degree of atmosphere, and yeah, they want to grow their careers. What don't they want? Well, I think you could say nobody really wants to be micromanaged. I had a chance to get to know the folks at the Nerdery. Now, the Nerdery was started by 3 guys who were nerds, basically IT guys. And they worked for companies and organizations they didn't like. So they started meeting together and said, you know what, let's start our own company. But not let's start our own company so we can make a lot of money. They started with a different objective. Let's create the kind of place that people like us would really want to work. That was their number 1 objective when they formed the Nerdery in Bloomington, Minnesota. While the Nerdery has become one of Minnesota's top workplaces year in and year out. And I think one of the big reasons is because they grant autonomy to the people that work there. Now, if you go to the Nerdery, and I've had a chance to actually tour it, you're going to see a lot of, quote, nerds, IT people that really understand technology and they enjoy working together. And they have a great environment. They play a lot of games. They let you bring your pets and your dogs to work. I mean, they're always having Nerf sword fights, and there's pool tables and pinball tables. They want you to enjoy coming to work. But the cool thing about the Nerdery is that every single person gets to wear a bracelet, and the bracelet says co-president. See, they want you to think like a president. Every nerd they have at the Nerdery was probably the smartest kid in their high school class. Now they go to work at a company that has well over 500 people who are also the smartest kid in their class. And so what happens? Do you have to wait until your ideas are finally accepted? I mean, do you start as the low man on the totem pole and you have to work there for a long period of time before you kind of move up a siloed organization? And the answer is no. They want you to think like a co-president so that you give your best service to the people and the clients that you serve. So when they have disputes, hey, this is the way we ought to, approach this particular client or this particular project, well, they take a vote. And the cool thing is, at the Nerdery, the best idea wins, which means it doesn't matter what your title is. It doesn't matter how long you've worked here or where you got your degree at some Ivy League school, or you're just a 15-year-old coder. If you have the best idea and they vote with a thumbs up process, if you have the best idea, your idea wins, and that's what they're going to share with their clients. You see, in today's day and age, the American dream is very much alive, but the American dream doesn't boil down to, hey, you want to own your own business because you want to make a lot of money? It's more or less, I want to own my own business because I get to call the shots. And everybody wants clear direction, but nobody wants to be micromanaged. So think about that in your organization. Do you provide the kind of autonomy, the kind of guidelines that allow people to make decisions, or do you try to turn them into robotic automatons where if the customer says this, you say that? You just are a person reading a script, right? This is what we say when they say that, because I guarantee you that burns people out fairly fast. So now we got another one. We got autonomy. What else? Well, I learned something when I got a chance to interview Bill Marriott. Bill Marriott, legendary captain of industry. We know Bill Marriott. Well, Marriott hotels are always being cited as one of the top workplaces. They too win that Fortune's Award. And I got a chance to interview Bill. I said, Mr. Marriott, what makes your organization the best hotel chain in the world? And without batting an eye, he says, it's our communication strategy. I said, well, every company says they communicate. What's so different about Marriott? He says, every day we insist that our leaders, our managers, and even our supervisors hold a 5-minute stand-up meeting for everybody that reports to them. A stand-up meeting, Mr. Marriott, what is that? He said, well, you meet standing up. Because when you meet standing up, you put away your technology, you're eyeball to eyeball, belly to belly, and you share great information. I said, well, what's the format? He said, well, we make sure those stand-up meetings follow a three-course plan. And what are those 3 courses? He said, number 1, we tell people what they're doing well. Everybody wants to hear where we're excelling. Number 2, we tell people what is it that we need to focus on? Where do we need to improve? Now, we'll never call anyone out individually during those sessions. We'll just say, as a team, we need to improve this aspect or that aspect of our business. I said, Mr. Marriott, what's that third very important thing that you share with everybody every day? He goes, in the Marriott organization, we simply ask a question. What do you need to do your job better? Boy, that stopped me in my tracks. They're not saying, here's how we make more money, or what do you need to be happy in your job? They're saying, what do you need to do your job better? See, the Marriott organization believes everybody wants to do a better job, and then a manager or a leader simply provides the ability to do that. They provide the environment that allows everybody to maximize their own individual performance. So they ask that question, what do you need to do your job better? I said, Mr. Marriott, give me an example. He said, okay, let's say you're the housekeeping manager at one of our smaller hotels, and you pull your housekeepers together that day, and they said, and you tell them what they're doing well. You focus on one area that everybody needs to focus on to improve, and then you say, what do you need to do your job better? And one of the housekeepers might say, boy, we sure could use more linens on the 3rd floor. Mr. Marriott said, Eric, you better get more linens on the 3rd floor, because people will stay in a job where they feel like they're being listened to. And he said, you don't always have to give people what they want, because sometimes their requests are not rational, or maybe it's going to take a long time. But in every situation, you got to understand it's important to listen, to respond, and to engage. And those 3 words made a profound difference to me in the way that I communicate with my staff. Communication is so key. So now what? We have six things that a culture has to be. Yeah, but there's one other. You see, millennials are frequently being cited as the trophy generation, where everyone wants a trophy or everyone deserves one. The reality is we all want a certain degree of acknowledgement. We want to know when we do well. Yeah, we want to know when we screw up well, but we want someone to notice it. That's why we go out and take pictures of our dinner and post them on social media so that other people will like what we liked. It's like we want to fit in. We want to know that somebody out there is listening to us. Acknowledgement is so key. And I can't give a better example of acknowledgement than I can with the Apple company. I took this photograph at 10 minutes after 10 in an Apple store. And it was one by my house. But if you go in and ever see the employees at work, those people they call geniuses, not salespeople, love their company, they love their products, they love their technology, but more than that, they love their customers. So much so that they will allow those customers to turn their backs. They'll allow their employees to turn their backs on their customers to recognize each other. They have this philosophy that says, we want to make sure all our people feel like they're the most important thing in our entire operation. So Apple has a simple ceremony. It happens at every Apple store across the planet. There's over 520, I think, Apple stores. It's called clapping in and clapping out, where every single employee gets a standing ovation on their first day, and they get a standing ovation on their last day. The employees recognize them for who and what they are. And that's what really ignites performance and makes those individuals feel like they matter. It's acknowledgement. So I would ask anyone listening to the webinar, what are you doing to acknowledge your people? And hopefully it's a great deal more than an annual performance review or every once in a while an attaboy. People in today's day and age want to know that they matter. They want to know when they do well. They also want to know maybe when they make a mistake. So acknowledgement is so key. Now, if you count it all together, you'd say that's one of seven cultural pillars. And I can promise you that everybody that works for you wants those things out of you, the employer. Now we look across and we say, well, what about the people who work for us? We want positive, enthusiastic people who show up every single day dressed like pros. They take initiative, they respect our rules, we can trust them, and they want to be here. So if we get everything we want out of them and they get everything they want out of us, that's when we get this thing called engagement. And engagement is so paramount in today's day and age, especially in this crushing labor shortage. Everybody's asking themselves, how do we engage people? The reality is engagement happens on the first day we hire them, because we're not going to hire anybody that doesn't bring the 7 core values that we insist on. And nobody we really want to hire is going to come to work for us unless they believe they get all 7 of those cultural pillars on our side of the equation. So when they get what they want and we get what we want, engagement happens. See, I don't believe engagement is really what we're after. I think it's what we're trying to avoid. What we're trying to avoid is this thing called disengagement. And you look at all the statistics and all the reports and all the polls from Harris and Gallup, et cetera, they say that 3/4 of our workforce is either identified as not engaged or actively disengaged. They don't like our company, they don't like our brand, they don't like our products, they don't like us. And so we settle. We settle for engagement. Well, I spent years studying companies that weren't satisfied with engagement. They didn't want their people just to be engaged. They wanted their people to be on fire when they're at work. As much on fire for their company as they would be for their fantasy football team or their favorite rock group. They wanted people who really wanted to be there. So after 3 years, I wrote a book. And the book is called On Fire at Work, How Great Companies Ignite Passion in Their People Without Burning Them Out. And I did get to talk to people like Bill Marriott. I talked to founders, leaders, and presidents of great organizations in a variety of different industries, noted for being the best places to work in their respective industry. And I tried to get to the bottom of what makes their culture so significant. And I kept coming back to these 7 cultural pillars. People want to work for a company where they feel like that company cares about them, where they're properly compensated, where they're communicated with, where they get all of those 7 cultural pillars. When you do that, you wind up with a team that's on fire. Well, you might be on the other end of this phone going, look, I only have a few employees, or I have a small company or a medium-sized organization, and you know what? We can't give everybody everything they need. We can't put a petting zoo in the back so they can bring their kids to work with them. We can't give them free dry cleaning services and 3 p.m. massages. Well, gang, you don't have to be the next Google. All you have to be is the best place to work in your industry, or at least the best place to work in your community. And if you're focused on that, I want to be the best place to work, then you're consistently trying to improve your workplace across those 7 key industries. You realize your business could not exist without people. And I know this for sure. The only way to attract and retain great people is to offer a culture that other employers who want those same employees, they can't match. So like Apple, you become a people-first culture. Customers are important. They're the lifeblood. We need customers. But if we love on our people will love on our customers. If we treat our people give them the best possible culture we can, amazing things are going to happen. And that's what I like about Balance Point, because they offer the consulting, the tools, the technology to help you improve your culture across all 7 pillars. So I'd invite you to think of those 7 pillars. And if you want to download this presentation, go to a website, ericchester.com/balancepoint. You'll be able to download these slides. And if you're interested, you could get copies of my books, Reviving Work Ethic or On Fire at Work, or maybe you're interested in a book that I have coming out, which probably is one that's going to make the bestseller list. And it's called Fully Staffed, the definitive guide to finding and keeping great employees in the worst labor market ever, with real how-to strategies about recruiting, taken from smaller to mid-sized companies, people who are winning the talent wars. At any rate, it's been a great pleasure to be with you today, and I want to thank my great friends at Balance Point. At this point, Pete, I'm going to turn it over to you. Thank you so much for having me as a guest.
Eric, that was awesome, and we hope everybody enjoyed the webinar. I think there's a lot to gain from this information on how to engage and keep your greatest asset, your employees, your human capital. Eric, thanks for being with us today, and we look forward to working with you again in the very near future.